Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So in the previous class, we were studying the dictum Tattvamasi as has been explained by Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya in the Vivekachudamani. Now today, is how to realize this dictum Tattvamasi within ourselves. So that's the instruction which Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya will enunciate from the verse 254 to 263 of the Vivekachudamani. So this section from verse 254 to 263, that's the portion we will now undertake. So verse by verse we will go. Most probably in one class it is not possible to cover all those verses. We will try to cover as many verses as possible from starting from 254, and this section will continue up to 263. So here he exhorts his disciple to meditate and experience the truth for himself. So that's very important. That's Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. First, the truth has to be heard from the spiritual teacher, the Guru. That's Sravana. And then I have to cogitate upon it, to have an intellectual conviction of the truth. And once I have the intellectual conviction of the truth, then the real spiritual journey starts. I have to meditate on my conviction. The intellectual conviction alone is not the spiritual evolution, because we'll find that when we have to deal with our day-to-day challenges of the life, mere intellectual understanding, mere intellectual conviction won't help us. Unless and until that has been internalized, that has become a part and parcel of our life. And that's possible only through meditation on the conviction of the intellectual conviction. And that's the process of Nididhyasana. So now, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya will explain, will enunciate this process of realizing that unity with the ultimate reality. This individual soul is one with the absolute. To realize that, the process of meditation, the meditation that's required, that will be stressed from the 254th to the 263rd verse. So now let's start with the 254th verse. So what it is saying? Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, Duragam. Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, Duragam. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Dosha, Varjitam. Desha, Kala, Vishaya, Ativarti, Yat Brahma, Tattvamasi, Bhavaya, Atmani. So what he's saying? That reality, that which is beyond Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra. Duragang means beyond. So Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, Duragang. So that which is beyond the Jati, the caste and creed. The Niti speaks of the caste rules, the particular class to which you belong. So there are certain responsibilities, rules, the do's and don'ts, which pertains to that particular class. So that's the Niti, the do's and don'ts. Kula, the family to which one belongs, the family lineage. And the Gotra speaks of the much more broader community, that the particular community to which I belong. So that is the Gotra. So the Atman, the Brahman, is something which is beyond all this. Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, Duragam. It is devoid of name and form. Nama Rupa Guna Dosha Varjitam. So Nama Rupa, this Guna Dosha. It is devoid of name and form, merit and demerit. Nama Rupa speaks of name and form, and Guna Dosha, merit, demerit. So it is neither something which is pure, neither something which is impure. It transcends both. It transcends the name, the form, the merits, the demerits. And then Desha Kala Vishaya Ativartati. It transcends space, time, Desha Kala Vishaya, all the sense objects. It is beyond that. Desha Kala Vishaya Ativarti. So that Brahman, who is beyond the space and time, who is beyond name and form, who is beyond merits and demerits, who is beyond all sorts of distinction in the form of class, caste rules, the family lineage, the community, is beyond all those things. Meditate on that. Yat Brahma, Tattvamasi, Bhavaya Atmani. That Brahman art thou. You are that absolute reality. You are not this limited individuality which you think yourself, that you think that you are a limited being bound with this body-mind complex. You belong, your identity is restricted by the class, by the society, by the family lineage in which you are born. These are all the definitions of the limited individuality. The place where you are born, the space, the time which defines you, this all speaks of the limited individuality, but you are not that. You are the absolute. You transcend all this. You are the pure conscious principle on which all these things has been superimposed. So you are beyond all those things. So meditate on that. So this is very important, that once you are intellectually convinced about the conscious principle, which is the essence of your existence, now you have to constantly meditate on that till all the desires falls off. It will come. This idea will come. Your mind becomes pure. You get established in the idea that you are the pure conscious principle. Nothing can tarnish you. Nothing can blemish you. You are beyond all the dualities of life. Meditate on that till you get established in that. Religion is realization, as Swami Vivekananda stressed again and again. So realize the truth, not just mere intellectual conviction, not mere belief. It has to go to the state of realization, and then only we are truly spiritually illumined, then only we are liberated. Even while living, Jivan Mukta, that we go beyond all the bondages and limitations, even while living, if I realize that truth. So that's being spoken of in this verse. So what this Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra means? Jati means caste. From the Indian perspective, it is caste. But it is not something limited to India. Throughout the world, we will find the same idea of caste finds expression as class. In any society, there are four classes are there. The intellectuals, the academicians, or the Brahmins, those who are looking after the sovereignty of the nation, governing the nation, sovereignty of the nation, protecting the nation, defense and administration. They're looking after that. They are the Kshatriya, those who are in the politics, not all politicians. It is those who are in the federal politics. They are the one who is looking after the entire administration and even the state government. So they are the Kshatriya. And then Vaishya, the business class. Every society has a business class. There is that every society is sustained by that business class. The entire finance is being managed by them. Economics is managed by them. So that's the business class, is the Vaishya. And who is the Sudra? Who are giving us service. You go to the restaurant, the restaurant is giving us service. Go to the hospital, we get this provided with service. The council, keeping the city clean. This park, everything, the cities, all the facilities are well maintained. That speaks of the Shudra, those who are serving. So it's there in every society. So it's not that it is something very, very in this our Vedic culture specific. So this is something which is everywhere. And this idea of class is the jati. But the real sense, the essence of our being is beyond that. It is just on the surface of our existence, in the fringes of existence. It finds manifestation. It manifests as this type of variations. But in essence, it is the self and self alone. So it is beyond jati and beyond niti. Now, each and every class, whether it is the Brahmins, academicians, the Kshatriyas, those who are looking after the sovereignty and defense of the nation, the Vaishyas, who looks after the economics and the finance of the entire nation, and those who are serving through the various type of service providers, the Shudras. Each of them have a definite set of do's and don'ts, responsibilities. Each of them. So that speaks of the niti, the do's and don'ts pertaining to a particular class. There's the niti. And what's the kula? It means the genetic family. That nowadays we find that with the help of DNA, they will find out your family tree, the genetic family tree. So that speaks of the kula, to which kula you belong. And the gotra, it's a much more wider type of relationship, which speaks of a particular race. The gotra, from where the word gotra came, it is very interesting, though it is a bit out of this topic, but sometimes it is good to know that how these words originated. Gotra, this word gotra is related to go. Go means cow. Cow herd. In the olden days, in the villages, one of the big challenges was to keep the herd, the cattle, safe from the predators. At night, when all are sleeping, at that time the predators, in those days the forests were just adjacent to the villages. So all these predators will come out at night, and in the morning you find that your cattle have been taken away. They are being devoured. So in the olden days, what happened? That they now started living in a group, as collectively. Now, for everyone to guard the animals at night is not possible. They have to sleep. So what they did, that the entire village or a group of 3-4 villages, they will have a common this cow herd. They will have a common place for all the cow shed. All the cows will be in the common cow shed, a huge area where all the cows will be there. And there will be some few persons designated for the job of security at night. So they will be guarding those cattle from the predators. So now these cow sheds, huge cow sheds, that used to define that which all villages that all the cow herd belongs to, this cow shed belongs to which all villages, which group of people. So that group of people became a particular gotra. This, that's how interesting these words come. So it speaks of a race. That the common economy, in those days, economy was not the currency notes, it was the cattle, it was the crops. So that has to be protected from the predators. So that determined your race, and that from that the word gotra came. So these all speaks of distinguishing a particular person or a particular group from other. But the Atman, the Brahman, who is the essence of our being, is beyond all these distinctions. That is the This Duragang means to beyond all this, to transcend all these distinctions. So Brahman is beyond these limitations. So it is to get ingrained in this idea. We'll find a very interesting thing, that these things, these ideas, how to practice in life. So for that we have to study the life of this realized soul. So in Mundaka Upanishad, there is the idea that there no sadhana, no spiritual practice can become successful, can lead to a spiritual evolution, unless and until it is associated with some sign, linga. That you will find a particular religious sect wearing particular mark on their head, or wearing a particular type of attire, particular type of dress, shaving their head, or whatever it may be. These are the linga, the signs. So these are all the signs. So here we will find in spiritual practice, you have to adopt to particular type of this external behavior pattern, external dress, external the way you decorate, you mark yourself, you dress yourself. All this is something very important. Why important? That it somehow has a very strong, a very deep impression in our mind. It creates a deep impression in our mind. The moment a child is playing at home, he's casually just playing at home with others, and the parents make him wear the school dress and send him to school, immediately his mind changes. Yes, now no more this just play. I have to focus my mind on my studies, on my academics. So the dress itself changes the mind. That's why we find everywhere particular dress is there. So in spiritual life also, the more we can adopt particular physical means, it has a very deep impression in our mind. That deep impression it creates on the mind. You'll find Sri Ramakrishna throughout his spiritual life did that. So as one has to go beyond Jati, Kula, Gotra, Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, you'll find how Sri Ramakrishna used to meditate in his early days of sadhana in Dakshineshwar. You'll find that in the dead of night, in the Panchavati, he's sitting fully naked. He has removed even the sacred thread. The Brahmin, who is not supposed to remove his sacred thread, throughout his life it has to be around his neck, across his shoulders. But he has to remove that and then sit for meditation on under the tree, under this Panchavati, in the dead of night. So what was the idea? Why he has to remove everything? Because he felt that this sacred thread, particular type of dress, gives us that identification. What's the identification? I am a Brahmin. I belong to a higher caste. So all these distinctions, hierarchy, which is detrimental in our spiritual growth. I have to go beyond all these distinctions. So Sri Ramakrishna used to physically renounce that Atman is beyond all that. So that's why we find many thought that he has gone mad. Have you seen anyone meditating that way, removing all dress, even the sacred thread? So the sacred thread is to hang on the branch of the tree. His nephew, Hriday, saw, and he thought his uncle has gone mad, because he never knew the idea beyond this Sri Ramakrishna's practice, that why he was adopting that. So when he asked, then Sri Ramakrishna told that these all give us this false sense of pride, false ego. So it has to be removed. So physically he has to renounce that. He is to, at the dead of night, he will go to the sweeper's house. Now, in those days, the caste distinction was very strong. What to speak of cleaning the sweeper's house, even to be near him, even to trample over the shadow of a, what to speak of touching, you cannot just walk over the shadow of a low class people. That was the strong caste distinctions. Sri Ramakrishna, to get rid of that, at the dead of night, he will go to the sweeper's house. During his sadhana, he had long hairs. With that, he will wipe the toilet of the sweeper to get established in the idea that I am in no way greater or more sophisticated or greater than the so-called the lowliest, the one who the society thinks as the lowliest and the lowly. I'm not nothing greater than that. So to get rid of this, he has to practice. So these are the practices to get rid of that idea. So we find. So it's not easy. So that's why we find the Shankaracharya, who is speaking of this to go beyond Jati, Desha, Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra. In his spiritual life, we will find that once he was going to have a dip in the Ganges, in the bank of the Ganges at Varanasi. And as he was going down the steps, a man belonging to the low class, from the Shudra, Chandala, he was coming up, and Shankaracharya, in the wings, being afraid, being apprehending that he may touch him, he immediately told, just stop, don't touch me. And then that Chandala, the so-called the man from the low caste, he says, who is going to touch whom? Can I touch you? Can you touch me? What the thing which will be touching is the body. Are you the body? Am I the body? And then Shankaracharya had that realization that yes, again that caste distinction is coming as a barrier to his realization. And he immediately realized it too, that the so-called low class, that the Shudra, who is no one but Shiva in disguise too. He came in disguise to give that realization to him that the Atman of which you are speaking is beyond all these distinctions. How come you have that sense of distinction? So this is the idea which we find in which all the realized soul are established. Holy Mother, in a simple word, explains this idea. What she says, that when will you realize that you have attained that highest? She used to say very nicely, she used to say that, যখন দেখবে তোমার মাঝে যিনি, আমার মাঝে যিনি, সেই একই সত্তা, সেই যিনি আমার মাঝে যিনি, তোমার মাঝে যিনি, ওই দুলে বাগদির মাঝেও যে, তখন জানবে জ্ঞান হয়েছে. So when you realize that the one who is within me is also within you, and also within the lowliest of the lowly, the so-called lowliest of the lowly. It's the same essence in everyone. When you are convinced of that fact, know it for certain, then only you are established in wisdom. So this is the idea which we find being exemplified in the lives of the great spiritual illuminaries. So that's the idea, that the self is beyond that. There cannot be any distinction. Nama Rupa Guna Dosha Varjitam. This Nama Rupa. That as Vedanta in Chandogya Upanishad, that idea is there. That the various utensils made of clay. So what distinguishes one from the other is the name and the form. Vacharambhanam namadheyam mrittika ityeva satyam. In essence, they are all mrittika, the clay. A particular shape used for a particular purpose. We designate them with a particular name. So this name and form is something apparent. In essence, they're all clay. So this name and form is just a an verbal usage for serving us a particular purpose as per our day-to-day life is concerned. So it has a vyavaharik satya. But it is not the absolute truth. The absolute truth is, it is the Atman alone, which is beyond name and form, the conscious principle. So that's beyond name and form. Just like the clay, which is the essence of all the clay utensils. So the clay itself is beyond name and form. It appears as name and form, and it serves a particular purpose, but in essence, it is beyond that. So the self is also something which is beyond name and form. Guna, dosha, varjitam. There's all the guna and the dosha. Guna means merits and demerits. The Atman is in no way affected by them. That example that which we give again and again, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the same sunlight in which someone is reading the scripture and someone else is counterfeiting the coins, the currency notes. Does the sunlight get contaminated by the one who is counterfeiting the coins? Or does it acquire some merit by the one who is reading the scriptures? It is just beyond these merits and demerits. It is just giving light. What that a person is going to do with that light, that in no way affects the sun. So that speaks of guna dosha varjitam. The self is beyond the merits and demerits. Desha kala vishaya ativarti. It transcends space, time, and sense objects. Space, times, and objects, this all pertains to this world of relativity. When the question of space comes, when there are two objects, the distance between the two objects gives a space. When there is no object, consciousness and consciousness alone, it is not being projected as the objects. The question of space doesn't come. The question of time when comes, when the space is there, when two objects are there, then the question of traversing from one point to the other, that gives the concept of time. When it is traversing, yes, it started at a certain period and then it... But if everything is just a homogeneous mass of consciousness, chid ghana, showing this, without, it is homogeneous. There is, you cannot distinguish one point from another. So when the question of space, time, causation, sense objects, everything falls off there. So the self is beyond that. So that's the idea which we find is being indicated here as a self. So these are the ideas on which we have to meditate, to go beyond all the sense of distinctions and get established in the self. So this idea we'll find has been expounded in the Mundaka Upanishad. There is a nice verse, what it says, Yat tat adreshyam agrahyam agotram avarnam achakshusrotram tat apanipadam nityam vibhung sarvagatam sushukshmam tat avyayam yat bhutayoning paripashyanti dhiraha. So this same idea, this negating all the manifestations which we find in this world of senses to get established in the self. What it is saying? Adreshyam, that which cannot be seen, agrahyam, which cannot be smelled, or which cannot be grasped, agotram, which is beyond all distinctions of clans, caste, avarnam, achakshu, avarnam, varna, and chakshu, that's beyond all the sense objects. Srotram is beyond hearing. Tat apanipadam, without hands and feet. There is no question of parts. It is beyond all part. It is just consciousness and consciousness alone. Nityam, it is something which ever exists in the eternal present without any change. Vibhu, it's all pervasive. Sarvagatam, sushukshman, it is subtler than the subtlest. because it is the cause of everything. Tat avyayam, that untransformable. It is not transformable. Bhuta yonim. So this, which is the yoni, the cause of entire bhuta, everything that has been born, that has been born at a particular period of time. So that is bhuta. So it is the cause, it is yoni, the cause of all this bhuta. Who sees that? This, the self which is beyond all the sense perceptions, is the dhiraha, the one who is dhira. One is calm. One has calmed down his mind to go beyond the vagaries of the mind and get established in the self. He realizes that. He realizes that how? Paripashyanti. Paripurna rupena pashyanti. He sees it in totality. It is not just seeing through the senses. Paripashyanti means there's perceiving something beyond the senses. So it is called that there are in Sanskrit, these words are there, this aparoksha anubhuti, that all our anubhuti at present is paroksha. Paroksha means with the help of something which is not me, my senses, my mind. Through them, the self is perceiving this world. When the sense, the mind, they all cease to function, the self is realizing the self, and that is something which is aparoksha. You are not taking the help of anything apart from yourself. Aparoksha anubhuti. So when then you get established in the self, and that's the idea is spoken of. As your vagaries of the mind have stopped, you have calmed down the mind perfectly, you realize the truth. The mind is just like the prism. The consciousness is just like the white light. The white light coming in association with the prism breaks into the spectrum of 7 colors of this spectrum of this world of name and form. So you have calmed down the mind. The association of the mind with the consciousness has ceased, and the spectrum merges with the white light. The spectrum is no more there. And then you find that all these distinctions were because of the mind. You have the moment you can go beyond the mind. That's the idea which has been explained by the word dhira. Dhira. In Upanishad, again and again, we'll find this word dhira comes. Dhira speaks of calming down. The one who is calm. Calmness speaks of wisdom. Or the one who is calm, he is wise. He can see the reality in totality. So that's the idea we find in the Mundaka Upanishad, which reflects the idea as has been spoken by Bhagavat Shankaracharya in the 254th verse. In the 255th verse, this you will find that the Yat Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. So that Brahman which you are, meditate on that. This is the common thing. But to understand that, to meditate on that Brahman, for that Nididhyasana, various aspects of it has been spoken of in all these verses, one by one, so that when I say Brahman, the word Brahman is no more a mere word. I can understand it from the various angles, from the various perspectives, that what it is, and that helps me to transcend all the limitations which binds me to this world of senses. So in the 255th verse, what it is saying? Yat param sakala vak agocharam gocharam vimala bodha chakshusha shuddha chidghanam anadi vastu yat brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. So this last part is same. Yat Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmi. So that Brahman you are, meditate on that. So what that Brahman, what it is, in this verse it is saying, that Supreme Brahman which is beyond the range of all speech. Yat Param Sakala Vaka. Vak is beyond all the speech. Agocharam. It is beyond all the speech. But accessible to the what you see, this Vimala Bodha Chakshusha. So what is accessible to the pure intellect. So when someone used to say Ramakrishna, that the ultimate reality is avang manasa gocharam, avak manasa agocharam. It cannot be expressed by speech, it is beyond mind. The mind cannot comprehend it. Immediately Sri Ramakrishna will respond by saying, no, that's not the fact. It is not manaso gachar, manasa agochara. It is not that it is not incomprehensible mind of mind. He used to say, Shuddha mon, Shuddha buddhir gochar. It is comprehensible by the pure mind and the pure intellect. And that's the idea which we find is being indicated here. Gocharan Vimala Bodha Chakshusha. Now, it may appear to be contradictory that the self which is beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, and here it is being said that it is something comprehensible by the pure mind, the pure intellect. Actually, it is not that by the pure mind and the pure intellect it is perceived, but at the same time, to attain the purity of the mind and the intellect is the means which can take you to that realization. The pure mind and the pure intellect is the means to take you to that realization. But when you go to the realization, the mind is not there. The intellect is not there. So when you say that it is something which is perceived by the pure mind, pure intellect, it actually speaks the pure mind and the pure intellect takes you to that realization, but the state of realization is something beyond the mind and the intellect. So this idea we'll find very nicely has been explained by Sri Ramakrishna through one of the parables. That when I say that it is avang manasa gochara and again say it is shuddha buddhi gochara, these two contradictory ideas, how to understand? The Sri Ramakrishna's allegory is a wonderful allegory that helps us to understand the idea. What he said? That he's giving them an allegory, he's just depicting an allegory. That a man was passing through the forest and he was attacked by 3 dacoits. The 3 dacoits attacked him. One of the dacoit, after seizing all his wealth, whatever he had, he snatched away all of the wealth and then told, what's the use of keeping this man alive? Let us kill him. Just kill him. The second dacoit, he told, why to kill him? That after all, we are all having that fear that he may go back to the village and report the police, and the police will be in search of us. So that's the fear. So the best way, there's no need to kill him. See, there you see a stump of the tree. Let us tie him nicely on that stump of the tree and leave him. Why to kill him? So the 3 agrees. Okay, let us tie him to the stump of the tree and just leave him. Naturally, he cannot go to the village back. So in due course, automatically he will die of starvation or whatever it may be. So we need not take the pains of killing him, just let us tie him nicely on the stump of the tree. So he was tied nicely on the stump of the tree, and then the 3 dacoits left. Now the third, 3 dacoits, the third who was just consenting with them, now he alone came back. And he appeared to be more compassionate. He says, oh, most probably it's hurting you. Let me untie you. So he untied him. And then he told, it's impossible for you to go out of the forest. It is such a dense forest, you won't get your way out of it. Come, let me guide you. And then this third dacoit guides him to the end of the forest from where, in distance, the village was visible. And now the dacoit says, you see, in a distance, your village is visible. So now you can proceed. Now you go. Now this man, this traveler, he felt very much obliged. He had a sense of gratitude now. After all, this man has saved him, helped him, and he's showing him the way to the village. So out of gratitude, he requested him, why not you to come with me, accompany me to my village, be my guest tonight. And then this third dacoit, he said, no, it's impossible. I cannot go with you. I cannot accompany you because the police is there. They will catch me. So he shows him the way, but he himself cannot accompany him. So this is the allegory which Sri Ramakrishna, this is a parable which Sri Ramakrishna speaks of in the gospel. And then he explains, the one who said, kill him, is the tamas. Of the three gunas, he is the tamas. The tamas destroys. You will find that deep, that our ignorance destroys us. Tamas is ignorance. Rajas, activity, speaks of ambition. All our ambition binds us to this life. Through all the things which we attain, we get bound by it. So that's what he was speaking of, the time, rajas. And sattva liberates. But does it mean that liberation itself is sattva? No, it shows us the way. It is also, the sattva also is within the bounds of this maya, in the bound of this ignorance. It shows us the way, but it cannot reach there. So that's like that, the one who showed him the way and pointed the village, but he himself cannot go there. That's the sattva. So now you will understand that the Atman is not realized by the mind. That is also fact. But the pure mind, through the pure mind, it can be realized. It shows you the way. Though it is not that in the pure mind, through the pure mind, you see it. The pure mind has taken you to that state which is beyond the mind. So now we will find that this apparent contradiction can be resolved. So that though he is saying yat parang sakala vak agocharam, first that it is beyond all mind and speech, and then gocharam vimala bodha chakshusha. With a pure intellect, you can perceive him. Shuddham chidghanam anadi vastu yat. So Shuddham, that's the ultimate pure existence, which cannot be tarnished by any dualities of life. Just as in the previous verse, we were giving the example, again Sri Ramakrishna's example, of the sun, which never gets polluted by the one who is counterfeiting the coins in its light. Neither it gets purity by the pious act of one who is reading the Bhagavatam on that light. It transcends both. That's the idea of Shuddham, that nothing can touch it. It is beyond all the dualities. Chidghanam is a homogeneous mass of consciousness. There is no distinction in the form of space, time, causation. That's the idea of Chidghanam. So, this, and then again this Yat Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayat Manihi. So this Brahman has to be realized. It is not something which can be expressed through your words. That's Avak also speaks of. In the Upanishad, they say man of realization. What is his characteristic? He is nativadi, na ativadi. For us, when we are speaking of Brahman, we have just heard it from the scripture, read the scripture, and we are uttering the words of the scripture, but we don't have the corresponding realization. So we are all ativadis, because our speech is transcending our realization. For a man of realization, he is na ativadi, na ativadi. His speech doesn't transcend his realization. That example which we give again and again, that common example. The one who have tasted the mango. When he speaks about the taste of mango to a group of people who have not tasted, they are all ativadis. After hearing, they repeat his words, but those words is not in any way substantiated by realization. They're just mere words. Among those people, those who are speaking of the taste of mango by hearing from a person, what they're speaking may appear to be correct because he is just just word by word, he's repeating the same words of the man who has tasted the mango. So it may appear that he also knows, but actually he has nothing, no realization to substantiate his words. But the moment he tastes the mango, then he knows the real import of those words. And then he is no more ativadi, he becomes nativadi. So when the scripture is saying that it transcends the speech, that's what it means. That it cannot. Just by speech, I can never express it. When Sri Ramakrishna met Vidyasagar, and during the conversation, Sri Ramakrishna suddenly told a very nice thing. What that? এই জগতে সব কিছু এটো হয়ে গেছে, একমাত্র ব্রহ্ম এটো হয়নি. Eto means to get defiled. That when I am taking food, the plate in which I am taking food, others won't take from the same plate because I have contaminated that food by my own saliva when I'm taking. So that's the generally hygienic habit, that the food which I am taking, the same food shouldn't be shared by the other because it is contaminated, defiled. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying that in this world, everything has been defiled. When I see a thing, a red flower, I say it's a red flower, you immediately realize that what red flower is because you also have seen it, realized it. So that's why that red flower is defiled. Why it's defiled? Because we all have the common perception of it. So it has been defiled. But Brahman cannot be defiled. Even when I say about Brahman, if a man of realization speaks of Brahman, the others cannot realize it, cannot in any way understand its true import. So that's the idea, it can never be defiled. It is beyond Vak. And that's the idea which has been spoken of. So why these ideas are spoken of? Because to stress the need for realization, that which is beyond words. By hearing these words, you can never realize. So, yat brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. So you have to contemplate on it and get established on it. That Brahman art thou, meditate on this. Nidithayasitavya, meditate on it. Again and again, this idea of meditation has been spoken of. Through meditation, realize that. So this 255th verse, we find the same idea is being spoken of. The 256th verse, what it is saying? Shadabhi, urmibhi, ayogi, yogi rit bhavitang nakaranai vivat vivatang. So let me again read it. Shadabhi, urmibhi, ayogi, yogi rit bhavitam na karanai vibhavitam. What it means? The three ideas. So it is untouched by sixfold waves. Shadavi, urmi. Urmi means wave. Urmi bhi. So a yogi. Yoga means union. A yogi means disjoint. So a yogi, shadavi, urmi bhi. So it is in no way touched by the six waves. What are the six waves? So these are all technical terms. The six waves are hunger, thirst, sorrow, delusion, decay, death. This hunger, khut pipasa, hunger and thirst. This speaks of this prana, pranic energy, this bioenergy. So it is beyond the prana, hunger, thirst. It is beyond sorrow and delusion. Dukkha and moha. This is what sorrow and delusion speaks of. It speaks of our mind. This all the delusion, all the sorrow is experienced through the mind. So it is something beyond the mind, beyond the prana, this prana, beyond the mana, and decay, death relates to this body. Jara, Vyadhi, Mrityu. Jara and Mrityu, decay and death. So it is beyond the body. So that's by this Sharabhi, Urmibhi, Ayogi. This is the idea. It is beyond these 6 waves. They're like waves, they're constantly flowing, changing. It is nothing fixed, permanent. There is something permanent beyond the waves. So it has been said as waves because constantly they're flowing, changing. None of them are, even for a single moment of time, just the same as it was in the previous moment, constantly transforming. That's why it's called, has been compared with waves. Yogi Rit Bhavitam. So all this, the vagaries of the mind, the prana, the body, these are in the fringes of our existence. They're constantly changing. But what is the constant factor which is not changing, because of which everything is changing, is the sense of this amness. Everything is centered on that amness. That amness, the same am, I am. When I say I am, I know that as a small child, I have changed. My body has changed. My thought process has changed. Everything has changed. But do I ever feel the one who was as a small child is different from the one who is an elderly person? No. The same amness. So the yogi is always conjoined with that. That's the connection. That's the point where there is no as such flow. In amness, we are all hinged. We all has to be always hinged to that amness, unified with that amness. And that's being spoken of as yogi rit bhavitam. In his heart, in his buddhi, the yogi is constantly contemplating on that. In essence, the consciousness, the amness, the awareness on which all these variations are projected, the yogi is constantly unified with that. And then, na karanai vibhavitam. Karana speaks of the sense organs, but it is not grasped by the sense organs. So when I am diving within to realize that self, immediately, because of our wrong notion that everything which we perceive is through the senses, is through the mind, we may find, oh, then this also has to be perceived through the sense and the mind. So immediately saying, na karanai vibhavita. It's not through the mind and the senses. You have to transcend that. But again, when I say I have to transcend that, how can I transcend the mind? So it is saying buddhi avedyam. So it has to go beyond the buddhi. Anavadyam. Anavadyam means which is beyond all blemish, pure. So it is beyond the senses, beyond the mind, and it is pure. Nothing can tarnish it. So once you get established in that, that is the asti, that's the amness, that's the ultimate easiness. Yat Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. So thou art that, meditate on that. So you'll find that everywhere this main idea from various angles, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya, what he's doing, he's trying to show that in the fringes of existence, just in the shore of existence, all these variations, all this flow exists. But when you go to the deep within the essence of your existence, you are that unified whole, where you are in the eternal present, where is in the constant, you're in the eternal present. There is no transformation, no change. No, when there is a change, then there is a question of past, present, and future. If there is no change, we can say it's an eternal present. So here there is a conscious principle. You have the homogeneous mass of consciousness, Chid Ghanamurti, which is beyond time, space, causation. You are that unified whole, beyond all these changes. On that, meditate. Again and again, he's saying, meditate on that. So negate all these so-called variations, changes, flow, and meditate on that unified whole, which is your real nature. So In the 257th verse, so what he's saying is Bhranti Kalpitam, Jagat Kalasrayam, Swa Asrayam, Cha Sat Asat Vilakshanam, Nishkalam Nirupamavat, Nirupamavat, Hi Yat Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. So again, thou art that, meditate on that. That's the last part of the phrase. But first, Bhranti Kalpitam Jagat Kalasrayam, that which is a substratum of the universe, with its various subdivisions. Kala speaks of divisions. Kala means divisions. This Jagat is Kalasrayam, that everything is a conglomeration of parts. We cannot see a homogeneity anywhere in this universe. Everything is a conglomeration of various parts. So this Jagat is Kalasrayam, and this is Kalpitam. Because of illusion, you are imagining it. It is not the reality. So this is Bhranti Kalpitam. This all is because of the delusion. These all are creations because of the delusion, which is itself, it's its own support, Swa Asrayam. That ultimate reality doesn't need anything for confirming its existence. Everything else for its existence has to resort to the self. When the self says that you are, that existence of that thing is certified. When I say the sun is, that a huge sun is a huge celestial body compared to which I am just like a small ant crawling on this earth. In space, I am so insignificant. But the scripture says the one who is within me is Mahato Mahiya, is greater than the greatest. All the celestial bodies that are huge in space and time, there's something make me feel I am insignificant. But those existence of those great things is because of my assertion. When I say you are, it exists. Otherwise, who is there to prove their existence? So the one who is within me is the greater than the greatest. His existence, the existence who is within me, it needs no support as such to confirm its existence. But everything else needs the support of the consciousness which is within me. So that's why it is called Swa Asrayam. It exists by its own right. It doesn't need anyone else to confirm its existence. So that's the idea of Swa Asrayam. Cha Sat Asat Vilakshanam. So which is, Sat Asat means what? It is distinct from the gross and the subtle. Sat means reality, something which is tangibly perceptible through the senses. Asat, its cause. It is not tangibly perceptible, but there is some subtle cause which has resulted in this gross universe. So when they say Sat Asat Vilakshanam, it means it is beyond both the gross as well as the subtle, beyond the cause as well as the effect. That is what is meant by Sat Asat Vilakshanam, which has no parts. Nishkalam. So it is just the consciousness. There is no question of parts. So that, as we have mentioned again and again, that in Sanskrit there are so many dictums to understand that. That in Sankhya philosophy, through Anumana, they say the self is the ultimate reality. Why it say? Because ascertain this idea by the dictum Sanghato Pararthatvat. That wherever you see a composite whole, know it for certain that it is meant for something which is not a constituent of that conglomerate. To explain this idea, that I'm sitting in this room is made up of bricks, it is made up of the cement, it has this wooden planks, There is this electricity, the electric wires, and there's a lamp, there's the AC machine, the furnitures. Does this room serve any purpose for any of this, which are the constituents of this room? No. I, who am not a constituent of this room, in no way I am a constituent of this room, or anyone who is coming to the shrine. This para, he is separate from this room. For his artha, for his purpose, this conglomerate has been made. So in this world, wherever you see some conglomerate, know it for certain that it is made for someone who is apart from those conglomerates. So that way, if you go through inference, ultimately you will have to get established in the idea that the self, which is not a conglomerate, which is a homogeneous whole, because of which for him only the world with all parts is existing. So that's why it is something beyond any type of conglomerates. It has no parts. That's what is indicated by the word nishkala. This kala means parts. It is beyond any parts, nishkala. And which has nothing to be compared with, because it alone exists. It is the only ekam eva advitiyam. It alone exists. The question of comparison comes where there is two. When that self alone exists, what is the question of comparing? So it is something which is nirupamavat, which is beyond any comparison. Upama means to compare. Nirupama, it is beyond all comparisons. So that self, the one alone, which is the essence of the existence, that ekam eva dvitiyam. So that's the Brahman, that's what you are. Meditate on that. So that you will find through the various angles, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is giving us the idea of the self so that we can meditate on those ideas to get the idea of what the self is, which transcends this world of sensate experiences. And through this contemplation, at last, get established in the self. So this, through meditation alone, it is possible. How is it possible? We have described so many times. Again, we will describe in the succeeding classes when the scope comes, that this meditation alone, it has a science behind it, that alone can take us beyond this world of name and form, beyond the mind, beyond all duality. And with this, we conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.